ASEAN Para Games being held in Indonesia.
On Sunday afternoon, Prime Minister Hun Sen posted a congratulatory message on his Facebook page, saying congratulations to the 3 Cambodian WT Taekwondo athletes who got gold medals at the 2022 World Police and Fire Games in the Netherlands. He further wrote, "This is the pride of our whole nation. All the 3 WT Taekwondo athletes participating in the 2022 World Police and Fire Games in the Netherlands from 26 to 31st July got gold medals." On Saturday, Taekwondo athletes Sam Yudet and Va Mitona obtained gold medals, and the following day, athlete Phal Sovanat triumphed and added another gold medal to Cambodia's tally. The World Police and Fire Games is an international sporting event for police, fire, customs, and corrections service personnel, according to the Games' official website. More than 10,000 athletes from 70 different countries came to compete in 63 sports in 2022. Over in Southeast Asia, the ASEAN Para Games kicked off on Saturday, and Cambodia has so far managed to win 2 gold medals. The first was won by the Cambodian women's wheelchair basketball team, who defeated the team from Thailand 7-5 in Solo City, Indonesia. The second gold medal was won in women's long jump by Vit Chanta. According to the Cambodia SEA Games Organizing Committee, as of Monday, 1st of August, Cambodia has won 3 medals in total. 2 gold in women's wheelchair basketball and long jump, and 1 additional bronze medal. At this year's ASEAN Para Games, 115 athletes from Cambodia have been sent to compete in 11 sporting categories, including swimming, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, 7-a-side football, table tennis, badminton, weightlifting, chess, and more. During the 9th ASEAN Para Games in Malaysia, Cambodia won 5 silver and 5 bronze medals, while the 10th edition of the Games in the Philippines was cancelled due to COVID-19.
2,000-year-old statues of Lord Shiva, which disappeared from Cambodia in 1998, have been paraded and returned from the National Museum of Phnom Penh to its original location in Banti Chamar Temple in Banti Minche Province on Saturday, 30th July.
The procession of the 2 Lord Shiva statues was attended by officials of the Ministry of Culture and many other senior officials. The president of Banti Chamar Tourism Community, Mao Si, told EAC News that there were a total of 8 statues missing from the temple. Now that 2 have been returned, 6 still remain to be found. The director of the Banti Minche Provincial Department of Culture and Fine Arts, Yong Tang Kui, also confirmed to EAC News that the statues were erected in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. He said, "The statues of Lord Shiva disappeared in 1998 after smugglers stole and took them to Thailand. In 2000, the royal government of Thailand found and returned the statues to the royal government of Cambodia, keeping them at the National Museum in Phnom Penh until now. With the help of Deputy Prime Minister Kai Kim Yan, the statues have now been returned to their original home."
The president of the National Assembly of Cambodia, Heng Samrin, has stressed the importance of the contribution of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association to strengthen the relationship and cooperation between the 2 countries, becoming more stable in the long run. He has urged the association to further reinforce its activities and cooperation. National Assembly President Heng Samrin met with the president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association, Nguyen Thi Thanh, at the National Assembly on Tuesday morning. During the meeting, he stressed that the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association plays an important part in contributing to the strengthening of long-term ties and cooperation between the countries, in accordance with the wishes of the 2 countries' leaders. He also congratulated the party, state, and people of Vietnam on the achievements made in their socio-economic development. The National Assembly President further encouraged the Friendship Association to continue strengthening and expanding its activities and cooperation in key areas other than social and humanitarian, including in the economy, in trade, education, science, and so on. The president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association congratulated Cambodia's steady development despite the circumstances brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Taking the opportunity, she reported the recent developments in Vietnam, the work of the Vietnamese National Assembly, and the cooperation between the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association to the Cambodian National Assembly president. She stressed that Vietnam, like Cambodia and other countries around the world, has suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, Vietnam's GDP grew by 3%, but in the first 6 months of 2022, Vietnam's GDP grew by 7%, so the country's economy is in the process of recovery from the pandemic. President Heng Samrin said he considers the current visit of Nguyen Thi Thanh as part of the celebration of the 55th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Cambodia and Vietnam, along with various units and institutions of the two countries that have been holding and organizing various programs to celebrate this milestone. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged officials to find work that solves problems for the people, rather than to sit and wait for the work to come to them. He commented that officials must listen to the people and accept their requests and opinions in order to formulate policies properly. Prime Minister Hun Sen made a post on his official Facebook page on Tuesday morning, recalling his activities related to meeting directly with farmers who have helped the government formulate policies to improve food security in Cambodia. He wrote, "Communication between the people and the Prime Minister has made the forum a success. We have addressed the people's requests not only in agriculture, but we have also addressed schools, roads, bridges, ponds, wells, pagodas, and much more." From a country that lacked about 1 million tons of rice in the 1990s and early 2000s, we now have more than 6 million tons of rice left, along with other agricultural crops that have grown significantly, enabling us to meet domestic demand and exports as well. The Prime Minister's post was accompanied by a picture of him in his 40s, meeting with a farmer while wearing a sweaty blue shirt. He further added, "Listen to the people, talk and accept the people's reasonable requests. Only then can we formulate the right policies. Be a two-legged officer, not a 10-legged officer, and run towards the work. Do not wait for the work to run towards us." Prime Minister Hun Sen first took office as the Foreign Minister of Cambodia in 1979 at the age of 27. He became Prime Minister in 1985 and has held the position until the present date, making him one of the longest-serving Prime Ministers in the world. The Ministry of Rural Development has announced that rural water supply and sanitation covers more than 80% of Cambodia so far. Furthermore, this coverage rate is expected to reach 100% in 2025. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
In the progress report released by the Ministry of Rural Development on the past 5 years from 2018 to 2022, it is stated that the Ministry built more than 10,000 wells, more than 1,000 community ponds, more than 2,000 rainwater ponds storing more than 10,000 litres of water, and distributed more than 140,000 rainwater filter jars to the public. In addition, the Ministry built 67 community water production stations, 330 water treatment stations, and concentrated nearly 20,000 water treatment systems and tanks. More than 20,000 drinking water tanks were distributed to people in the community. Water tanks were built in 33 schools, 128 small irrigation systems, and 13 irrigation pumping stations were also installed. Additionally, nearly 3 million people were educated on the use and keep of clean water. At the same time, nearly 500,000 rural latrines were built, boosting the cessation of open defecation in 60% of target villages. The report further notes, nowadays people in rural areas generally have access to basic services, good hygiene, a clean environment and comfort. At the same time, rural people also have the access to better rural water and sanitation services, contributing to support of the rural government in promoting good and healthy nutrition. The Secretary of State and spokesperson for the Ministry of Rural Development, Trun Tevravat, has said that the rural government has already set a goal to achieve 90% supply of clean water across Cambodia by 2023 and by 2025 to fully achieve 100% clean water supply. However, he said that the COVID-19 outbreak will likely have delayed the implementation of this plan. He said, "I can briefly answer to our goal by 2025 to achieve 100%. ODF may be a little late, the reason being COVID-19 factor. COVID-19 only affects the development barriers of our goals, but it also affects the structure of the whole, both the participation of partner organisations and the participation of the people. The Ministry of Rural Development has set 2025 as the year in which all people living in rural areas will have access to clean water, sanitation and hygienic environment to live in enshrined in National Plan for Clear Water Supply and Sanitation Promotion Rural Sanitation between 2014 and 2025. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has emphasized the relationship between Cambodia and Vietnam as being a good, interdependent, and friendly relationship. In this sense, the Prime Minister said that the progress made by Vietnam has also boosted the progress of Cambodia. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
Speaking at a meeting with a member of the National Assembly Standing Committee and the president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association, Nguyen Thi Thanh, and the Peace Palace on Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said he has been working with the Vietnam-Cambodian Friendship Association since 1979 and further praised the progress made by the Vietnam, which has contributed to Cambodia's process as well. He said, due to the good relations between the two countries, Cambodia has received a lot of Vietnamese investors, as well as cooperation in other fields, including energy. Vietnam is an important market for the agriculture exports from Cambodia. The trade volume of the two countries has reached more than $10 billion, which is a huge size. Ms. Nguyen Thi Thanh said that Cambodia has prospered due to the leadership of Prime Minister Hun Sen, and she noted that the country's progress was due to the right policies and vision of his management of the government. She said Cambodia's progressive development under the leadership of Samdech Techo Prime Minister Hun Sen includes controlling the spread of COVID-19 and the economic recovery of Cambodia as most important factors. She also congratulated the good diplomatic relations between the two countries, especially as 2022 marks the 55th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Cambodia and Vietnam, and the 45th anniversary of the overthrow of the genocidal regime Pol Pot. Cambodia and Vietnam established diplomatic relations 55 years ago in 1967. However, following Cambodia's liberation from Khmer Rouge regime, the relationship became more cooperative and mutually supportive today. The two governments consider each other as good friends, brothers and neighbours. The Socialist Republic of Vietnam ranks first among ASEAN countries in terms of direct investment in Cambodia, with the trade between the two countries exceeding $9 billion in 2021. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Secretary of State and spokesperson of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Au Van Dien, has said that the Nigerian man found positive for monkeypox has still not recovered from the disease and is continuing his hospitalization. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
As from 10 p.m. on Monday, the 1st of August, the patient identified as 27-year-old Osman Chinzamarin from Nigeria has still yet to test negative for monkeypox, according to Dr. Au Van Dien. Additionally, she said that all 5 people who had direct contact with him are still asymptomatic and continue to be quarantined at their homes with regular follow-ups. Osman Chihamazarim first tested positive for monkeypox in Thailand, where he fled from the medical treatment facility and came to Cambodia on the 22nd of July. Cambodian authorities located him in Phnom Penh one day after, on the 23rd of July, and he was immediately transported to the Khmer Soviet Friendship Hospital for treatment. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The United States killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in a strike in Afghanistan over the weekend. President Joe Biden said on Monday, the biggest blow to the militant group since its founder Osama bin Laden was killed in 2011.
Zawahiri, an Egyptian surgeon who had $25 million bounty on his head, helped coordinate the September 11, 2001 attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people. US officials speaking on the condition of anatomy said Zawahiri died after a US drone strike in Afghan capital, Kabul, at 6:18 a.m. or 0148 GMT on Sunday. Now, justice has been delivered and this terrorist leader is no more. Biden, who is recovering from COVID-19, said in remarks from the White House, no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you're a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out. US intelligence determined with high confidence through multiple intelligence streams that he was the man that was killed was Zawahiri. One senior administrative office told reporters he was killed on the balcony of his safe house in Kabul that he shared with other members of his family. There were no other casualties. Biden said Zawahiri had been with mastermind behind played a key role in the attacks of USS Cole and the US embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. Zawahiri continued to pose an active threat to US persons, interests and national security. The official said on the confidence call, his death deals a significant blow to the Al-Qaeda and will degrade group's ability to operate. The drone attack is the first known US strike inside Afghanistan since US troops and diplomats left the country in August 2021. The move may bolster the credibility of Washington's assurance that the United States can still address threats from Afghanistan without military presence in the country.
China has reportedly raised the stakes in its row with Washington over U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's planned trip to Taiwan, saying it may respond militarily if the California Democrat goes through with the visit.
The latest warnings were privately issued to members of President Joe Biden's administration, the Financial Times reported on Sunday, citing 6 unidentified people familiar with the matter. The statement was significantly stronger than the warnings that Chinese officials have given in the past over controversial U.S. actions or policy decisions related to Taiwan. Today, East Asia is the scene of a sharp confrontation between 2 major nuclear powers, the United States and China. The situation is worsening as the Americans execute plans to contain Beijing. The key point of contention fueling these tensions is the Taiwan Strait. In recent years, Washington has increased its supply of weapons and military equipment to the island, while assisting in revamping the armed forces of Taiwan and strongly encouraging the local government's desire for independence. Taiwan holds extremely important geopolitical significance for the U.S. and China, representing part of the first island chain stretching from the Aleutian Islands in the north through Japan and the Philippines to the Greater Sunda Islands in the south. It is this Pacific frontier that both Washington and Beijing have defined as their main line of defense. The politicians in power on Formosa, which means beautiful in Portuguese and is a name that prevailed in Western cartography until the 20th century, in recent years have consistently pursued a policy of strengthening ties with the U.S., which is fully consistent with Washington's anti-Chinese rhetoric. The leadership of the People's Republic of China has repeatedly made it clear that actions violating the One China policy are unacceptable. This also goes for the provisions of the 3 joint U.S.-Chinese communiques of 1972 to 1982, which form the basis of the countries' bilateral relations. However, any conflict between Washington and Beijing would not be a small victorious war for either side. Even if the PRC fails to quickly capture Taiwan, it will persist in fighting U.S. forces in the Asia-Pacific region. On the other hand, even if the island is lost, the Pentagon won't curtail its operations because all of its previous efforts would be meaningless if it doesn't neutralize the potential of the Chinese military. In December 2021, Foreign Affairs magazine warned Washington and Beijing that a conflict over Taiwan could prove ruinous for both themselves and most East Asian countries, since the main participants could use nuclear weapons to change the situation in their favor if faced with defeat.
A senior Taiwanese government official and U.S. official have stated that U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is expected to visit Taiwan on her current Asia tour. China, which considers Taiwan to be a part of its territory, has made repeated warnings to the U.S. against Pelosi's visit to the island. However, the U.S. said on Monday that it would not be intimidated and that the U.S. House Speaker has every right to visit Taiwan if she plans. Speaker Nancy Pelosi arrived in Singapore on Monday to start her Asia tour. Previously, it was reported by separate sources that she would be visiting Taiwan on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Malaysian state media has also reported Pelosi's arrival in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday, scheduled to meet the Malaysian Prime Minister and Parliament Speaker. It has, however, also been reported that a source close to Speaker Pelosi's entourage said she would not be staying in Kuala Lumpur overnight and would likely be heading to the airport in the evening. Her delegation's public itinerary does not include an official stop in Taiwan, but China remains serious about its warnings and has raised the stakes by saying it may respond militarily if Pelosi goes through with the visit. Reuters has reported that several Chinese warplanes flew close to the median line dividing the Taiwan Strait on Tuesday, along with several Chinese warships that have remained close to the line since Monday. China's United Nations ambassador Zhang Jun said on Monday that Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan would undermine the relationship between China and the United States, telling a news conference that such a visit is apparently very much dangerous, very much provocative. Also on Monday, China warned that its military would not sit idly by if it felt that its sovereignty and territorial integrity were being threatened, with Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian saying, "We would like to tell the U.S. once again that China is standing by and the Chinese People's Liberation Army will never sit idly by. China will take resolute responses and strong countermeasures to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity." U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said after delivering remarks at the United Nations on nuclear proliferation that Speaker Pelosi's decision to visit Taiwan would be entirely her own. However, he called on China to avoid escalating tensions even further if she does end up visiting the island. He said, "If the speaker does decide to visit and China tries to create some kind of crisis or otherwise escalate tensions, that would be entirely on Beijing." He further added that the U.S. are looking for China in the event she decides to visit to act responsibly and not to engage in any escalation going forward.
Hello and welcome to our special live today from EAC News on the ceremony to officially receive the ASEAN Para Games flag. So following the conclusion of the 11th ASEAN Para Games in Indonesia, today the Cambodian athletes and other national representatives of the Games are returning with the ASEAN Para Games flag, as Cambodia is set to host the Games in its 12th edition in 2023, in addition to the 32nd Southeast Asian Games. This is the first time that Cambodia will be ever hosting this event. The Cambodian representative who received the flag of the ASEAN Para Games in Indonesia, Hun Mani, wrote in his Facebook page, "I am very proud that today Cambodia has officially received the flag to host the 12th ASEAN Para Games 2023. Welcome to Cambodia." The ASEAN Para Games is a biennial multi-sport event held every year after the Southeast Asian Games, involving athletes with disabilities from 11 Southeast Asian countries. Participating athletes have a variety of disabilities, ranging from spasticity, cerebral palsy, mobility impairments, visual impairments, intellectual disabilities, and amputations. The ASEAN Para Games is under the regulation of the ASEAN Para Sports Federation, with supervision by the International Paralympic Committee and the Asian Paralympic Committee. It is traditionally hosted by the country where the Southeast Asian Games is taking place. In 2022, the ASEAN Para Games was held in Solo, Indonesia from 30th July to 6th August. Cambodia sent a total of 115 athletes to compete in 11 sporting categories, including swimming, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, seven-a-side football, table tennis, badminton, weightlifting, chess, and more. At the end of competition, Cambodian athletes won a total of 28 medals, including 7 gold, 10 silver, and 11 bronze, across 7 different sports. This is the most medals Cambodia has ever won at any ASEAN Para Games since it was first established in 2001. Cambodia broke its own record in 2013 in Myanmar, where it won 9 medals in total, 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. With 28 medals, Cambodia is ranked 7th in the region, while Indonesia, the host, came first with 177, Thailand came second with 117, and Vietnam came third with 64. So just to recap, this is the live stream of the official receiving ceremony of the ASEAN Para Games. The 11th Para Games just concluded in Indonesia, and now the 12th Games is set to begin next year in 2023 in Cambodia.
So Cambodia is hosting both the 32nd Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Para Games, as it is traditionally so that the host country that is hosting the Southeast Asian Games will also host the ASEAN Para Games. And today the athletes are going to be returning from Solo, Indonesia, along with the national representative, who is Mr. Hun Mani. And when they arrive, there will be a short ceremony at the airport here, Phnom Penh International Airport, where they will officially be receiving the flag for the Para Games and kicking off now the start for Cambodia's turn to host the Para Games here in the city of Phnom Penh and in Cambodia. So as you can see from the footage, this is the airport, and they're just waiting now for the athletes to arrive. And we also do have a correspondent on the ground who we will check in with soon. And we are now just covering this ceremony and waiting for the athletes to arrive so that we can see the actual flag here on Cambodian soil, and to also possibly hear a few words from the representatives as well. And of course, to also congratulate the athletes who won 28 medals, breaking the national record. And the previous record was 9 medals, which was won in Myanmar in 2013. So Cambodia winning 28, it was a huge success, as they were able to beat their previous record by 19 medals. That's an amazing improvement, and of course a great honor for the nation. And the Cambodia ranked 7th in the region, actually. So they did quite well at this year's ASEAN Para Games. And the hopes are that next year, Cambodia will do even better. It is, of course, a known fact, too, that whichever host country is hosting the games, they do tend to do better because they do have a home advantage. And next year, Cambodia will be hosting both the Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Para Games. Regarding the Southeast Asian Games, the 32nd SEA Games, there is now, I believe, less than 300 days till the games begin. So Cambodia's turn to host is coming up very soon. There is actually an official countdown as well for the games that you can see online from the official social media and the official channels. And now we will be catching up with our correspondent on the ground, our reporter Hun Srewat, who is there at Phnom Penh International Airport. So hi, Srewat. How is it going over there?
Yes, it's good. And with the weather, we can see it, even they nearly land, but the people are coming here one by one. We can see the official are coming here, and they're waiting for in the VIP room, waiting for the Cambodia delegate and also the Cambodia athletes coming to the Phnom Penh International Airport. And we can see the many reporter, journalists, also the Cambodia traditional band, the traditional dancer are waiting for the Cambodia delegate, also the athlete coming with the Asian Para Olympic Games to the Cambodia. This is the historical moment, and we will hear the speak from the Minister of Defense, also the chairman of the Asian Game 2023, Tia Banh, will be delivering the short speech about the historical events today. And after he delivered the speech, the flag and also the athlete will be paraded across the Phnom Penh before goes to the Olympic Committee in Olympic Stadium Phnom Penh.
Okay, thank you, Srewat. So you were saying that there is a few people now waiting there, and you mentioned the Defense Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Tia Banh, who's there. Who else is there? Would you be able to tell us there to greet the athletes when they arrive on the tarmac?
I haven't seen them yet because they are in the waiting room, and right now we are outside in the venue where you can see the podium where the Deputy Prime Minister Tia Banh will be delivering the speech, and other people we can see like the minister, like the high official from the Ministry of Information, Ministry of tourism, also from the Cambodia Olympic Committee also attending here and waiting here. And if we take a look out, we can see the parade, the car are ready to welcome all the athletes and the Para-Olympic flag for they do the parade across the Phnom Penh, and this is a very big view, big historical moment after the flag of the SEA Games arriving here. This is the second time that we do it again.
Okay, I see. It sounds like there is quite a crowd there that is waiting for the arrival of the athletes. So do we know if there will be anyone else speaking, perhaps from the arriving delegation? As you mentioned, Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban will be delivering the main remarks, but will there be anyone from the arriving delegation, maybe one of the athletes or perhaps a national representative, delivering some words as well?
I hope Cambodia delegate Hun Mani will be delivering the speech. Also, the Minister of Tourism also will be delivering the speech as well.
Okay, I see. Okay, that's good to hear. It'll be really nice to hear, I think, from the arriving delegation as well. And then you mentioned that before the flag goes to the stadium, there will be a parade for the athletes. Is there any word of exactly where the parade will be going, the car, like through the city? Is there a route that's already been established?
The route already been established, but I haven't checked it yet. But according to the plan, they will go across the Russian Federation Road Boulevard and goes to another boulevard before reaching the National Olympic Committee in Olympic Stadium in Khan Savan Makara in Phnom Penh.
Okay, I see. And the athletes, their plane, has it...
Also, when...
Oh, yes, sorry. Continue. That's all right.
Okay. Also, when the flag are already arrives to the Cambodia National Olympic Committee, the Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban will also deliver a speech welcomes to the athlete that goes to the compete in the Para-Olympic game in Indonesia, and we are going to hear what he are happy about what the athlete do in Indonesia, and I think they will be a good result for good sign that Cambodia will be host the Para-Olympic game in the next year.
Okay, so there will actually be two different speeches happening today. You said one at the airport and also one once the flag arrives at the stadium. Is that correct?
Is that correct? That's correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. So regarding the athletes and their plane, has it actually landed yet in the airport? Have they arrived, or are we still waiting for the plane?
Well, firstly, if we go through the plan, that the plan is will land in Cambodia at 3 p.m. But right now, we wait a little bit more, and I think the plane will be arriving here at 3:30 p.m. and look like the plane is coming now. We can see the high-ranking officials are now standing up and also coming to the venues.
Okay, that's really good to hear. That means I think they will be landing very soon. All right, thank you so much, Trewat. We will catch up with you later once the athletes arrive. Okay, so we just spoke with our correspondent on the ground who is there at Phnom Penh International Airport. The athletes who went to attend the ASEAN Para Games this year in Solo, Indonesia, are set to now arrive at the airport along with the national representative Hun Mani, and they will be bringing the ASEAN Para Games flag to officially begin Cambodia's turn to host the Para Games here in the country after the 32nd Southeast Asian Games, which will also be held next year here in Phnom Penh. And as our correspondent was just saying, we are expecting to hear a few remarks from
Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, who is the Minister of National Defense here in Cambodia. He will be the main person receiving the delegates when they arrive here in Phnom Penh. And we also expect to hear some words from a representative from the Ministry of Tourism. And I believe that the arriving delegation will also have someone give a few words about their experience at the Paragames this year, possibly from Mr. Hun Mani himself. So it will be a great thing to hear what they have gone through. As previously mentioned, this year Cambodia did manage to beat its national record with 28 medals. The previous record was from 2013 in Myanmar, where the Paragames athletes won 9 medals in total. So 28 is a huge improvement. That is 19 more medals than before. And the hopes are also that next year the team will do even better, especially since it will be hosted here in the country. And it has historically been so that the country hosting the games does do better, as there is a home advantage. So there's a lot of hope for our teams, and also a lot of pride and happiness, as the Paragames team has done extremely well, just smashing the previous record and coming up 7th as well in the region. To recap the previous to recap on who won how many medals, the country that won the most number of medals was in fact Indonesia, the host, and Thailand came 2nd, I believe, and Vietnam came 3rd. And of course, Cambodia came 7th. And we are now just waiting for the athletes to actually arrive and exit from their plane. We can see in the footage that the greeting delegation made up of ministry officials and also from the Olympic Committee are now out on the tarmac waiting by the carpet that is there to greet the athletes. And I believe this is because the plane, which our correspondent on the ground said was supposed to land around 3 p.m., will now be arriving very soon. And it seems like today the weather, it looks like it might rain a little bit. However, it's kind of holding up pretty well right now, which is a good sign. And we hope to see the athletes very soon arriving on the tarmac with the flag as well. And it will be a real amazing honor to see the athletes come out. And once they do come out and the Deputy Prime Minister of National Defense, he does deliver his remarks along with the representative from the Ministry of Tourism and somebody from the arriving delegation as well. After that, the athletes will be taken in a special vehicle to parade around the city in a celebratory parade. And they will be going down Russian Boulevard, and they will be going towards the Olympic Stadium, where the flag will then officially reside. And at the stadium itself, our correspondent on the ground said that there will be further remarks delivered, I believe, from Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban himself. And the remarks delivered at the stadium are expected to be more focused on what was achieved at the current ASEAN or the recently concluded ASEAN Paragames in Indonesia, specifically all the achievements that were made by the athletes. So the 28 medals that were won and a number of them which were gold as well. So I believe we will be getting a more in-depth recap of the actual games in Indonesia then. But prior to that, when the athletes arrive in the airport soon, we believe that the remarks will more so be of just receiving the flag and also congratulatory words to the athletes as well as the national representative. And I think that then afterwards, they will soon just all get into the vehicle and go around the city for the actual parade. And our correspondent said that there is actually quite a big group of people there to greet the athletes. However, they were waiting previously inside a special VIP waiting room, but now they have, it seems, exited and are waiting on the tarmac, signaling that the plane is likely to land very soon. And what we hope then is that the athletes will exit soon, and then we will be able to see them arrive. Probably, I expect, to great applause, and then there should be a ceremony very quickly after to officially, of course, accept the flag from Indonesia, and also to then kick off the beginning of Cambodia's turn to host the ASEAN Paragames.
And of course, the ASEAN Para Games, they take place after the Southeast Asian Games, and the Southeast Asian Games being hosted next year in Cambodia, the 32nd edition. It's going to be also held here in Phnom Penh. And basically, traditionally it is so that whichever country hosts the Southeast Asian Games will also host the ASEAN Para Games. So this year that will be the case. Next year that will be the case. But this year it was something interesting is that the Southeast Asian Games were actually hosted in Vietnam and the Para Games were hosted in Indonesia. And I believe that was something to do with COVID-19, as the previous edition of the Para Games in 2021 had to be canceled due to COVID-19, and that was supposed to be held in the Philippines. So COVID-19 was really something that disrupted these games for a few years. And I believe that was the main reason for why the Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Para Games were divided into two different countries this year. But by next year, we will be going back to the original system, the official system, which is the country which hosts the SEA Games will also host the ASEAN Para Games. So for Cambodia, this is the first time to ever host this sort of historic event. So it is something that everyone is really looking forward to, and which will be something very historic for the country as well, I believe. And there is now, I believe, less than 300 days left until the Southeast Asian Games begins. So that will be something very much to look forward to in 2023, and especially with the context of Cambodia being this year's ASEAN chair. There's been many events this year and the next, and I think in many upcoming years as well, where Cambodia is hosting a lot of international events that really does put the country on a sort of spotlight on the international stage. And we're expecting that, something like the SEA Games and the ASEAN Para Games will likely attract a lot of people to Cambodia as well to visit, to come experience the games, and to also just come and experience the country. It's a very good sign for Cambodia with the ASEAN chairmanship of this year and the hosting of the SEA Games and the Para Games next year. It's just a signal of the development of the nation as well as just what is to come. And Cambodia, of course, does have high hopes in basically leaving behind the low-income country status and moving into low-middle income country status, and then by, I believe, 2030 to achieve high middle income country status. So there are big hopes for the future of Cambodia, but of course the nation is also on a path to that development, on a very upwards going path. And it's reflecting well, even despite the pandemic, Cambodia has managed to make it through, especially with vaccinations and everything, which is of course what has made it possible for such games and international events to even be held in the first place. So that itself is a huge show of the strength of the nation and of course the planning of the government and everything. So it is a great point of pride to even be able to host such an incredible event, but of course to also be the ASEAN chair this year, things like that. It's all showing how Cambodia has high potential, and it's also really moving forwards with very upwards moving development. So to recap, today this is just the live stream of the arrival of the ASEAN Para Games athletes from Indonesia, along with the national representative, Hun Mani. And they officially received the flag in Indonesia at the conclusion of the games on Saturday. And today they will be landing in Phnom Penh, where they will then officially bring out the flag on Cambodian soil for the first time to officially accept the flag and also kick off the official hosting of the games next year. So the countdown will begin, as the SEA Games countdown has already begun. And I believe there is about less than 300 days left until the SEA Games begins. So the Para Games athletes that are arriving today, they actually smashed the previous national record. So they won a total of 28 medals. And the previous record was from 2013 in Myanmar, where they won 9 medals. So that is an improvement of 19 medals, which is a huge jump for the country and for our athletes. And it was predicted that the athletes may have won I think it was something like 3 or 4 medals was the official prediction by the members of the Olympic Committee, by experts. However, of course, Cambodia sort of like, they did so much better than expected. They just completely smashed the previous record, and it's an incredible feat, and I think a point of great pride. And I now believe that the plane has arrived and the door is open. So we are now just waiting for the athletes and the national representative to exit, where they will now be greeted by the delegates who are there on the tarmac. And of course, the delegates include the Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, the Minister of National Defense, and representatives from the Ministry of Tourism, as well as representatives from the Olympic Committee. So we will be hearing remarks from Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban soon, once the athletes have all exited and the flag is officially received and shown to everyone there at the airport. And after he delivers his remarks, I believe we will also hear remarks from a representative from the Ministry of Tourism and a representative from the Olympic Committee, and likely also remarks from a member of the Cambodian delegation arriving from Indonesia. So we really look forward to hearing what they have to say, and it will be kicking off officially Cambodia's turn to host the Para Games, which is very exciting, as this is the first time ever that Cambodia is hosting such an event. And once that ceremony has concluded at Phnom Penh International Airport, they will then be entering into a special car that has been prepared for a parade that will go across the city. I believe they will be driving through Russian Federation, parading the athletes through the city so that then they can move towards the Olympic Stadium. And now I think we will be catching up with our correspondent on the ground once more, Hun Srewat, who's there at Phnom Penh International Airport. So hi Srewat, how's it going over there? I see that the plane has now arrived.
Yeah, behind me is the airplane that transport the Cambodia Paralympic athlete and also the delegation, and with the flag of the Paralympic Games to the Cambodia. And right now the flag's not is in the plane right now. It's not yet coming to the ground, but many people are coming to excited and welcomes to the Cambodia delegate, also the Cambodia athlete that just arriving here in Phnom Penh International Airport today.
That's great to hear. We're really looking forward to seeing the athletes exit the plane. And on the tarmac, who is there waiting for them?
Sorry?
On the tarmac, the delegates who are waiting, who can you see waiting for the athletes to arrive?
Yeah, also see the high official from the Ministry of Information, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Tourism, and the high official from the Cambodia National Olympic that coming to welcomes to them, and we still wait for them to be arrival, because they some of the athletes they have the person with disability, so they have some kind of difficult to travel and walk from the airplanes to the ground. And also we can see where this there is this is the where that the vehicle that can transport the athlete with a disability. They cannot walk, they can go through that, and these will be transport them to the waiting room, and for who they can walk or who they can go by themselves, you can go through the art. Yes.
Okay, I see. Thanks so much for that description. Yes.
Other they can walk, they can go through the normal step that coming to the ground. But we still wait for the athlete and also the delegate to coming to the venue.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for that description.
So regarding the plane, I do recall that there was a plane that was arranged for the Para Games athletes to go to Indonesia. Do you know if the plane that arrived today, was it also one of those specially arranged planes for the athletes?
Yes, because like the Prime Minister of Cambodia also said in the time that Prime Minister meet with the athlete in maybe in last month, he said that he wanted the Cambodia. Any airplane company to have the plan to transport our athletes to do the compete in Indonesia, and this is the one plan that also the trend that take the athletes to Indonesia, also the plan that take our athletes from Indonesia to the Cambodia back.
Okay, I see. And could you also just recap for us how many athletes is it that are arriving? It's quite a large delegation of people that are coming, right? Okay, I think we may have lost contact with our person on the ground. Our apologies for that. But yes, we're just here now waiting for the athletes to exit the plane. As our correspondent on the ground was also saying, there is a group of delegates who are already there on the tarmac waiting for the athletes to exit. And as our correspondent on the ground was also saying, there are also a special sort of, there are specially made arrangements for some of the athletes, as of course the Para Games athletes are athletes with disabilities, and some will need some assistance in exiting the plane. So for those who would like to exit from the front, they will exit through the front door, and others will be escorted in other ways for their own comfort, of course. So we will soon be seeing the athletes exiting the plane along with the national representative. And once they do exit, there will be remarks delivered by Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, the Minister of National Defense of Cambodia, along with representatives from the Ministry of Tourism and from the Olympic Committee of Cambodia as well. And this, of course, is the ceremony, the official ceremony to receive the ASEAN Para Games flag in Cambodia, as Cambodia is the host of the next ASEAN Para Games here in Phnom Penh. And after the ceremony is concluded at Phnom Penh International Airport, the athletes will be paraded in a car across the city. They will be taking the car through, I believe, Russian Federation towards the Olympic Stadium, where the ASEAN Para Games flag will then reside. And as our correspondent said earlier, I believe there will be further remarks delivered at the stadium from Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban and likely other people as well, other officials, as well as likely from the Olympic Committee and from the delegation who just arrived in Indonesia. And from my understanding, the remarks delivered at the stadium will focus on the achievements made in Indonesia. And that, of course, is that the team won 28 medals in total. And that medal tally is the highest for Cambodia. And the athletes smashed their previous record of 9 medals that was made in 2013 in Myanmar. So it was an improvement of 19 medals. And the previous predictions that were being made by the experts from the Olympic Committee here in Cambodia, they were predicting that maybe there would be about 3 or 4 gold medals. However, Cambodia kind of beat that record by a lot. They managed to win, I believe, 7 gold medals. So, of course, Cambodia exceeded all expectations this year, and they did incredibly well. So the athletes will be received at the airport to great applause and celebrations. They have done so much to bring pride to the nation and also to highlight Cambodia's potential as a sporting country as well, as that is also something which the nation is very interested in doing, in developing the sporting levels, the skills of the nation's athletes here.
as of course next year Cambodia is going to be the host of the Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Para Games, the first time for Cambodia to ever host an event of this sort. So it's become one of the major sort of focuses for Cambodia as well, to sort of up the level of sporting focus and of course sporting skill. And I think that the Cambodian athletes have so far really proved themselves and shown their potential and shown what is possible. And that's really incredible for a country like Cambodia, because Cambodia, of course, is not a very big country, has a small population, and for many years there's not many resources for the athletes as well. However, now Cambodia has booming development and is booming in every regard, and of course in sports as well. And now we can see the athletes exiting the plane. We can see them arriving with their medals around their necks, I believe. They're waving to the crowd, all the press that are present, as well as the delegates who are there. They're arriving right now, and they're being greeted with a big, long red carpet. As you can see, there seems to be a lot of excitement, and there's also, I believe our correspondent said, traditional dancers, and I assume also music there to greet them back to Cambodia. It's a very celebratory time, and we can see all the athletes exiting still. There's a very large group of athletes. I believe 115 delegates were sent from Cambodia to the Para Games in Indonesia. So a large number of athletes are now exiting the plane. And this, of course, was a special plane that was arranged specifically by Prime Minister Hun Sen for the convenience and comfort of the athletes. So the plane went directly to Indonesia from Cambodia and also directly arrived back here without any layovers. So it was a special chartered flight for the athletes. And now, after the athletes all finish exiting the plane, they will be taken to an area that has been prepared with a stage. And in that stage area, that is where the athletes will also be, they will be then celebrated for their achievements. And also that is where extra remarks will be delivered by the greeting delegation here, members of the Olympic Committee, as well as Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban and representative from the Ministry of Tourism, and also likely remarks from the arriving Cambodian delegation, perhaps from the national representative, Mr. Hun Mani. And as you can see, there has been special arrangements made for athletes who need to use wheelchairs and other assistance, mobility assistance. So you can see them also exiting the plane right now. And the athletes are also just waiting in a group on the tarmac. They're all donning their special uniforms, the red and blue jackets in Cambodia's national colors. And they're now waiting on the tarmac, I believe, also for the press, as the press are all out there, including our EAC News team. They're there to greet the athletes, to film their arrival, to take pictures and everything. And I think it's going to be a really big celebration at the airport, but the celebrations will continue as they get paraded through the city and go towards the national stadium here. And once they arrive at the stadium, that is where the official ASEAN Para Games flag will reside up until next year, when the ASEAN Para Games are held here in Phnom Penh. And at the stadium too, there will be more remarks delivered by officials, recapping the amazing achievements that the athletes made in Indonesia, the 28 medals that they won, the national record that they beat by so many, by 19 medals. And we can see the athletes all now being grouped up on the tarmac. Everyone is greeting them with great happiness and a lot of celebrations. As you can see, one athlete has several medals on. So the medals that the athletes won, they won them across 7 different sports. So the total medals, 28 medals, were won across 7 different sports. And that made Cambodia 7th in the region in this year's ASEAN Para Games. And we can see all the athletes standing there, many of them with medals on, as it was highly successful Para Games this year for our athletes. The great sense of pride here
in Phnom Penh International Airport. The athletes are all now just waiting for everyone to be outside of the plane. And once everyone is out and ready, they will be moving towards the area that has been prepared for the official ceremony to receive the ASEAN Paragames here on Cambodian soil, the flag, for the first time in the nation's entire history. So it is a really celebratory moment in many, many regards, made even more sweet because the athletes did so well this year, exceeding expectations in every regard, beating or exceeding every previous expectation, every previous guess that was made regarding how many medals that they would win. We can see they're just waiting now, I believe. Everyone is just waiting to make sure everyone is out of the plane first. I believe prior it was predicted Cambodia would win something like 3 gold medals. It was a fairly, I think, conservative prediction being made, as of course with the context also of COVID and several delays and a few years of not having the games. I think everybody had sort of conservative estimations for their athletes, not just in Cambodia but across the whole region. But it's incredible to see that following COVID, the first sort of big sporting event that our athletes here have taken part in, they really excelled. They did an amazing, amazing job, winning 28 medals, 19 more medals than the previous record. So it was really an incredible, incredible feat that they pulled off in Indonesia. And of course, just to recap, the ASEAN Paragames this year were held in Indonesia, but the Southeast Asian Games this year were held in Vietnam. And traditionally, it is so that the nation that is hosting the SEA Games also hosts the Paragames. However, due to COVID-19 and a lot of complications, especially in terms of crowd size and other preparations, which require big groups of people together, I believe that was one of the main reasons as to why the SEA Games and the Paragames were held separately in 2 different countries this year. However, of course, next year we will be going back to the traditional model, as Cambodia will be hosting both the 32nd Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Paragames. So right now we can just see the athletes. They're all waiting with their medals. As you can see, one of the athletes in the front, it looks like she has 3 medals. And as we can see, one of the athletes in the wheelchair, he has 2 medals. So a lot of the athletes won not only 1, but several medals. And very big group here that's just waiting on the tarmac at the moment. Soon enough, they will be greeted by the delegation who are there on the tarmac, which includes Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban. As you can see now, the delegation is walking across the tarmac, I believe making their way towards the athletes to officially greet them. And the athletes have also been welcomed, not just by this special delegation of officials, but also with music and dance and just a general celebratory sort of fair there at the international airport. As you can see now, the delegation has made their way onto the red carpet, and the athletes are just waiting now to be officially welcomed back. There's also a very large crowd of press there, including from our own team, EAC News, who is there shooting this live. And we can see there Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban. He's the main official there to greet the athletes here. They're all grouped along the carpet that has been prepared for the athletes. We can see now there are athletes that are greeting each other, greeting the delegation. There seem to be a lot of congratulations going around. And we can also see from this shot, it's the plane which the athletes just descended from. This is the special plane that was prepared by Prime Minister Hun Sen. He called for the plane to be prepared, a chartered flight for our athletes here, so that they could fly directly from Cambodia to Indonesia and back. Now they're all just getting prepared for the official ceremony to first greet the athletes back onto national soil, and then they will move on to the specially prepared area where there is a small stage that's ready for remarks to be delivered and for the ASEAN Paragames flag to be also shown and presented. So we can actually see sights of the ASEAN Paragames flag exiting the plane right now. And there it is. Here's the ASEAN Paragames flag. This is the first time the flag is on Cambodian soil, as this is the first time Cambodia hosts such an amazing sporting event. We see more athletes there actually with the flag. And oh, the person holding the flag is our national representative. I believe that is Mr. Hun Mani. And we can see with great pride he's exiting with the official ASEAN Paragames flag, which he and the athletes received in Indonesia on Saturday officially. And here we can see him handing it over to Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban to hold briefly. And we see right now the athletes, they're being greeted with wreaths. Yes, we can see them all now arrived, and we can see the flag billowing in the wind at Phnom Penh International Airport. Previously, the weather was looking like it may have rained, but so far so good. Conditions are going well, and we can see everyone exiting. These are, I believe, the delegation members who went alongside athletes, and we can see the mix of athletes as well who are still exiting the plane. So after everyone has exited the plane, they will be making their way to the special area that has been prepared at the airport itself. It's a small stage where Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban will deliver remarks, and we also expect to hear remarks from a representative from the Olympic Committee of Cambodia and from a representative from the Ministry of Tourism. And after the remarks are delivered and the flag has been officially received, the athletes and the arriving delegation will then move across the city in a special car, in a parade actually, a celebratory parade, drive through Phnom Penh, celebrating the achievements of the athletes and the arrival of the Paragames flag. And the celebratory parade will be making its way, I believe, through Russian Federation Boulevard. And from there, they will be moving towards the Olympic Stadium, where the flag will reside. So we can still see all the athletes on the tarmac, on the red carpet, receiving wreaths from Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban. It's a very, very big crowd. So we can see the athletes also waiting in line on the stairs of the airplane. And of course, a lot of press there as well, including our EAC news team. The athletes are all being greeted with great pride and huge celebration. You can see they're all individually receiving special wreaths, welcoming them back to their nation, to the motherland. And several athletes can also be seen wearing the medals that they won at the Games. This year, our athletes actually won 28 medals in total, which is an amazing feat and is smashing the previous national record from 2013 in Myanmar of 9 medals in total. So they really exceeded all expectations, and all the predictions made by experts in retrospect seem quite conservative, as they really kind of exceeded all expectations. And I believe it was something like 3 or 4 medals was the prediction for
for how many gold medals the team would win, but they managed to win 7. So really, really kind of going far and out with their wins and proving their potential. It's a great, great time of pride for Cambodia to do so well at the games, especially right after the games finally resumed, as they were previously put on pause due to COVID-19. And to do so well after the pandemic is, of course, I think, exceeding everyone's expectations, since it's been a few years since the athletes could sort of train in that same mindset of having the games every year. When the games are paused, of course, the training doesn't end for athletes. They train all the time. But to not have that goal or that expectation of attending such games and possibly winning medals and competing, then of course it can be different. There's different levels of motivation and everything, but for the first games right after COVID to do such an amazing job, it's really, really incredible to see. So of course, I think everyone in Cambodia is extremely proud of the national team. And I think it's also just a great sign for next year when Cambodia will host the games itself. We're expecting the teams to do even better here in Cambodia. And it's just a great sort of start off, a great way to kick off the beginning of Cambodia's turn to host the games. It's just very exciting to see the athletes come back and to have done so well and to now prepare for next year. As of course, for our athletes, they don't sit idly by. They must continue their training and always stay, in tip-top shape. So for them, there will be these celebrations and everything, but I think there will be, of course, immediately just a return to the training, a return to getting back into their A game, and hopefully maintaining this sort of energy until the games begin again next year. So to recap, following the conclusion of the 11th ASEAN Para Games in Indonesia, the Cambodian athletes and other national representatives of the games have now returned, and they come with the ASEAN Para Games flag. And this is the first time that Cambodia is hosting this event, and thus the first time the flag is on Cambodian soil. And the Cambodian representative who received the flag in Indonesia, Hun Mani, wrote on his Facebook page, "I'm very proud that today Cambodia has officially received the flag to host the 12th ASEAN Para Games 2023. Welcome to Cambodia." The ASEAN Para Games is a biennial multi-sport event held after every Southeast Asian Games involving athletes with disabilities from 11 Southeast Asian countries. Participating athletes have a variety of disabilities ranging from spasticity, cerebral palsy, mobility impairments, visual impairments, intellectual disabilities, and amputations. The ASEAN Para Games is under the regulation of the ASEAN Para Sports Federation with supervision by the International Paralympic Committee and the Asian Paralympic Committee. It is traditionally hosted by the country where the Southeast Asian Games is taking place. In 2022, the ASEAN Para Games was held in Solo, Indonesia from 30th July to 6th August. Cambodia sent a total of 115 athletes to compete in 11 sporting categories, including swimming, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, 7-a-side football, table tennis, badminton, weightlifting, chess, and more. At the end of the competition, Cambodian athletes won a total of 28 medals, including 7 gold, 10 silver, and 11 bronze, across 7 different sports. This is the most medals Cambodia has ever won at any ASEAN Para Games since it was first established in 2001. Cambodia broke its own 2013 record in Myanmar, where the country won a total of 9 medals, 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. With 28 medals, Cambodia is ranked 7th in the region, while Indonesia, this year's host, came first with 177 medals, Thailand came second with 117, and Vietnam came third with 64. So right now we are just showing live footage from Phnom Penh International Airport of the arrived ASEAN Para Games athletes and national delegate representatives.
As we can see right here, Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban is walking down in the front, and behind him we can see the national representative, Mr. Hun Mani, carrying the ASEAN Paragames flag. The flag was handed over officially on Saturday at the closing ceremony of the ASEAN Paragames in Indonesia and has now officially arrived on national soil. And right now, the delegation, along with the athletes, are making their way toward the special area that has been prepared at Phnom Penh International Airport, where there is a small stage, and that is where the athletes will first of all be celebrated for their amazing feats, where the flag will be also shown to the crowd and also officially received by the welcoming delegation, and also where we expect to hear remarks from Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, the Minister of National Defense here in Cambodia, as well as from representatives of the Cambodian Olympic Committee and the representatives from the Cambodian national delegation who arrived from Indonesia, as well as a representative from the Ministry of Tourism. And right now we can just see the welcoming delegation, one of the athletes and our national representative, Mr. Hun Mani, standing there in front of the stage. And we also see the athletes there waiting, where they received wreaths around their necks when they exited from the plane. Several athletes, we can also see them wearing their medals that they won. And of course, we can see some athletes also have several medals. And I believe now they're just waiting for the ceremony to begin. There's an official procedure that must first go down. And now I believe that we will be hearing some remarks. Okay, now the flag is being handed over to Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, and he is waving it around. Everyone is clapping there at the airport. And the flag is being passed to one of the athletes. And now I believe Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban will be delivering his remarks.
But ជាការចាប់ផ្ដើមសូមអរគុណសន្តិភាពអរគុណនយោបាយជាតិនេះដឹងគុណស្ថាបនិកមេកតេឯកនិងប្រតិបត្តិការនយោបាយជាតិនេះដែលនាំមកនូវសន្តិភាពនិងការឯកភាពជាតិពេញលេញសូមអនុញ្ញាតបន្តមួយឃ្លាទៀតគឺកីឡារស់ក្នុងសន្តិភាពឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវអរលោករកស្រីគ្រូបង្វឹកកីឡាករកីឡាករនីថ្ងៃនេះក្នុងនាមសម្ដេចអគ្គមហាសេនាបតីតេជោហ៊ុនសែននាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីនៃប្រជាជាតិអាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាខ្ញុំពិតជាមានកិត្តិយសដ៏ឧត្តមដែលបានមកចូលរួមជាមួយឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវអស់លោករកស្រីក្នុងពិធីទទួលទង់អាស៊ានផារ៉ាហ្គេមពីប្រទេសឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីបន្ទាប់ពីការទទួលទង់ស៊ីហ្គេមពីប្រទេសវៀតណាមកាលពីថ្ងៃ24ខែឧសភាឆ្នាំ2022នៅទីនេះនាពេលកន្លងមកក្នុងឱកាសនេះក្នុងនាមគណៈកម្មការជាតិខំសុកខ្ញុំសូមសម្ដែងការកោតសរសើរនិងវាយតម្លៃខ្ពស់ចំពោះគណៈប្រតិភូកីឡាជនពិការជនមានពិការភាពកម្ពុជាដឹកនាំដោយឯកឧត្តមហ៊ុនម៉ាណីតំណាងដ៏ខ្ពង់ខ្ពស់របស់សម្ដេចតេជោនាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីរួមជាមួយឯកឧត្តមជីវាសនានាយបេសកកម្មប្រធានប្រតិភូកីឡាជនពិការអាស៊ានផារ៉ាហ្គេម ដែលបានដឹកនាំប្រតិភូកីឡាទៅទទួលបានជោគជ័យដ៏ត្រចះត្រចង់ក្នុងបេសកកម្មជាតិដ៏ឧត្តមឧត្តមនាពេលនេះជាមួយនេះខ្ញុំក៏សូមសម្ដែងការខកសរសើរដោយស្មោះចំពោះបងប្អូនកីឡាករកីឡាការិនីជនមានពិការភាពទាំងអស់ដែលបានខិតខំប្រឹងប្រែងអស់ពីកម្លាំងកាយចិត្តនិងសមត្ថភាពរបស់ខ្លួនក្នុងការប្រកួតគ្រប់វិញ្ញាសាទទួលបានមេដាយមាសប្រាក់សម្រិទ្ធបានបំបែកឯកតកម្មចាស់ដែលបានចូលរួមព្រឹត្តិការណ៍ប្រកួតកីឡាពិការភាពនៅប្រទេសមួយចំនួននាពេលកន្លងមកជោគជ័យនេះបានបង្ហាញថាជនពិការភាពមិនមែនអសមត្ថភាពឡើយសូមបងប្អូនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋទាំងអស់លើកកម្ពស់និងជំរុញស្មារតីជួយឧបត្ថម្ភគាំទ្របន្ថែមទៀតដល់ការលះបង់ការតស៊ូការព្យាយាមការអំណត់អត់ធ្មត់ស៊ូទ្រាំគ្រប់ការលំបាករបស់បងប្អូនកីឡាករកីឡាការិនីជនពិការរបស់យើងហើយត្រូវយកចិត្តទុកដាក់ដល់ជីវភាពរស់នៅការហាត់វឹកវើនរបស់ក្រមជម្រើសជាតិពិការក្នុងស្មារតីអភិវឌ្ឍវិស័យកីឡាប្រកបដោយគុណភាពគុលផលនិងសមត្ថភាពកីឡាដ៏រឹងមាំសម្រាប់ជួសទៅដណ្ដើមជោគជ័យក្នុងការប្រកួតកីឡាអាស៊ាន Para Games លើកទី12ឆ្នាំ2023នៅព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាឯកឧត្តមមុនមនីនាយបេសកកម្មយាសនានិងអស់លោកទាំងអស់ដែលបានចូលរួមក្នុងពិធីថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំសូមជម្រាបជូនថាតាំងពីនាទីដំបូងយើងមានមោទនភាពណាស់ហើយសូមកោតសរសើរហើយក៏ពោពេញទៅដោយភាពរំភើបដែលទង់នៅព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជារបស់យើងចាប់ផ្ដើមថាលើកនៅទីក្រុងសូឡូនោះប្រទេសឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីហើយជនមានពិការរបស់យើងចាប់ផ្ដើមដំណើរការចូលក្នុងការរួមប្រកួតដ៏មានសារៈសំខាន់នេះដូច្នេះជាមោទនភាពខ្លាំងណាស់ចំពោះជាតិមាតុភូមិរបស់យើងការរីកចម្រើនលើគ្រប់វិស័យទាំងអស់វិស័យកីឡារបស់យើងចាប់ដើមងើបជាបណ្ដាហើយឈានមកដល់ពេលនេះគឺនាំនៅភាពមោទនភាពចំពោះជាតិយើងយ៉ាងល្អជាទីប្រពៃបំផុតឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវអស់លោកស្រីការទទួលទង់អាស៊ាន Para Games ពីប្រទេសឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីជាផ្លូវការនាថ្ងៃនេះរួមជាមួយការត្រៀមលក្ខណៈគ្រប់ជ្រុងជ្រោយរបស់កម្ពុជាសហព័ន្ធកីឡាជនពិការអាស៊ានការផ្ដល់សិទ្ធិពេញលេញដល់កម្ពុជាធ្វើម្ចាស់ផ្ទះរៀបចំការប្រកួតកីឡាអាស៊ាន Para Games លើកទី12ឆ្នាំ2023នាពេលខាងមុខក្នុងឱកាសនេះខ្ញុំសូមប្រកាសជូនថាការប្រកួតកីឡាអាស៊ាន Para Games លើកទី12នឹងទៅប្រារព្ធធ្វើឡើងចាប់ពីថ្ងៃ3ដល់ថ្ងៃទី9មិថុនាឆ្នាំ2023ជាមួយគ្នានេះខ្ញុំសូមអំពាវនាវជាសាធារណៈដល់ប្រជាពលរដ្ឋយុវជនទូទាំងប្រទេសចូលរួមរៀបចំខ្លួនត្រៀមអបអរសាទរលើកទឹកចិត្តនិងផ្ដល់ស្នាមញញឹមដល់ប្រតិភូកីឡាជនមានពិការភាពមកពីបណ្ដាប្រទេសជាសមាជិកអាស៊ាននិងប្រទេសទីម៉ូខាងកើតឲ្យមានភាពកក់ក្ដៅនិងជំរុញទឹកចិត្តដល់កីឡាករកីឡាការិនីមានពិការភាពឲ្យបានគ្រប់គ្នាក្នុងនាមគណៈកម្មការជាតិរៀបចំការប្រកួតកីឡាស៊ីហ្គេមនិងស៊ីហ្គេមលើកទី32និងអាស៊ាន Para Games លើកទី12ឆ្នាំ2023ខ្ញុំសូមថ្លែងអំណរគុណដ៏ជ្រាលជ្រៅបំផុតចំពោះសម្ដេចតេជោនាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីដែលជានិច្ចកាលតែងតែយកចិត្តទុកដាក់លើកកម្ពស់វិស័យកីឡានៅកម្ពុជាឲ្យមានភាពរីកចម្រើនលើគ្រប់វិស័យទាំងហេដ្ឋារចនាសម្ព័ន្ធនិងធនធានមនុស្សបានលើកតម្កើងមុខមាត់គេឈ្មោះកម្ពុជានឹងបានបង្ហាញសក្តានុពលជាតិទៅកាន់តំបន់និងពិភពលោកជាមួយគ្នានេះសម្ដេចតេជោនាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីបានផ្ដល់ការលើកទឹកចិត្ត តាមរយៈការផ្ដល់យន្តហោះពិសេសដឹកជញ្ជូនប្រតិភូកីឡាធ្វើដំណើរប្រកបដោយផាសុកភាពនិងសុវត្ថិភាពខ្ពស់ខ្ញុំសូមយកឱកាសនេះថ្លែងអំណរគុណចំពោះក្រសួងស្ថាប័នគណៈកម្មការជាតិប៉ារ៉ាហ្គេមអូឡ িম্প ពិកកម្ពុជាដែលបានសហការយ៉ាងជិតស្និទ្ធជាមួយគណៈកម្មការជាតិរៀបចំការប្រកួតកីឡាស៊ីហ្គេមលើកទី32អាស៊ានប៉ារ៉ាហ្គេមលើកទី12ឆ្នាំ2023រួមគ្នាខិតខំបំពេញការងារក្នុងស្មារតីទទួលខុសត្រូវខ្ពស់បានធ្វើឲ្យបេសកកម្មជាប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រលើកនេះទទួលបានជោគជ័យសូមអរគុណចំពោះក្រុមហ៊ុន Sky Angkor Airline និងក្រុមហ៊ុន Basaka Air ដែលបានផ្ដល់យន្តហោះពិសេសដឹកជញ្ជូនប្រតិភូកីឡាពីការកម្ពុជាធ្វើដំណើរទៅមកប្រទេសឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីโดยឥតគិតថ្លៃបានទាន់ពេលវេលានិងប្រកបដោយសុវត្ថិភាពជាមួយគ្នានេះខ្ញុំសូមអំពាវនាវចំពោះឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវអ្នកអង្គការលោកស្រីនិងក្រុមហ៊ុនសហគ្រាសឯកជនទាំងអស់ចូលរួមឧបត្ថម្ភក្រុមទ្រមូលនិធិកីឡាអាស៊ីអាគ្នេយ៍ឆ្នាំ2023ដើម្បីរួមចំណែកទ្រទ្រង់ការចំណាយរៀបចំព្រឹត្តិការណ៍កីឡាអាស៊ីហ្គេមអាស៊ានប៉ារ៉ាហ្គេមឆ្នាំ2023ឲ្យសម្រេចបានលទ្ធផលប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្ររបស់ជាតិយើងជាទីបញ្ចប់ជាមួយនឹងមោទនភាពនៃប្រជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាទទួលបានសិទ្ធិធ្វើជាម្ចាស់ផ្ទះរៀបចំការប្រកួតកីឡាអាស៊ានប៉ារ៉ាហ្គេមឆ្នាំទី12ឆ្នាំ2023និងប្រតិភូកីឡាជនមានពិការភាពកម្ពុជាទទួលបានជ័យលាភីមេដាយមាសប្រាក់សម្រាប់ពីការប្រកួតកីឡាអាស៊ានប៉ារ៉ាហ្គេមលើកទី11នៅទីក្រុងសូឡូប្រទេសឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីខ្ញុំសូមជូនពរឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវអរលោកស្រីព្រមទាំងបងប្អូនជនរួមជាតិទាំងអស់សូមប្រកបដោយពុទ្ធពរទាំង4ប្រការគឺអាយុវណ្ណៈសុខៈពលៈនិងបដិភិនៈកុំបីឃ្លៀងឃ្លាតឡើយបាទសូមអរគុណ
អង្គពិធីទាំងមូលជាទីគោរពនៅក្នុងគណៈពេលនេះសូមគោរពថ្លែងអំណរគុណយ៉ាងជ្រាលជ្រៅជាទីបំផុតចំពោះវត្តមានដ៏ពងពោះរបស់សម្ដេចវិជ័យសេនាធិបញ្ញបញ្ញារដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងការពារជាតិនិងជាប្រធានគណៈកម្មាធិការជាតិរៀបចំការប្រកួតកីឡាស៊ីហ្គេមអាស៊ានប៉ារ៉ាហ្គេមលើកទី23នៅក្នុងឱកាសនេះសូមសម្ដេចមានសុខភាពល្អបរិបូរណ៍ជានិច្ចនិរន្តរ៍តរៀងទៅនិងសូមគោរពថ្លែងអំណរគុណយ៉ាងជ្រាលជ្រៅជាទីបំផុតចំពោះវត្តមានដ៏ពងពោះរបស់ឧត្តមហ៊ុនម៉ាណីតំណាងសម្ដេចតេជោនាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីនៃព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជានិងជាប្រធានប្រតិភូកីឡាស៊ីហ្គេមលើកទី11ដែលបានដឹកនាំកីឡាករកីឡាការិនីទៅប្រកួតនៅទីក្រុងសូឡូនៃប្រទេសឥណ្ឌូនេស៊ីទទួលបានជោគជ័យគួរជាទីមោទនៈសម្រាប់ព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាសូមឯកឧត្តមប្រធានប្រតិភូនិងកីឡាករទាំងអស់ទទួលបាននូវសេចក្តីសុខសេចក្តីចម្រើនថ្លែងអរគុណចំពោះឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវអង្គលោកស្រីភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសជាតិអន្តរជាតិក៏ដូចជាអង្គប្រធានទាំងមូលសូមទទួលបាននៅពុទ្ធពរទាំង5ប្រការគឺអាយុវណ្ណៈសុខៈពលៈនិងបដិភិនៈកំបីឃ្លៀងឃ្លាតឡើយសូមអរគុណកម្មវិធីជាបន្តទៅទៀតនេះគឺពិធីដង្ហែក្បួន
So we just heard remarks from Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, the Minister of National Defense here in Cambodia. He just spoke briefly about the arrival of the ASEAN Para Games flag, as well as the arrival of the athletes and delegation from Indonesia. And they just arrived today following the conclusion of the 11th ASEAN Para Games in Solo, Indonesia. And I believe after now that this ceremony is concluded at Phnom Penh International Airport, the athletes and the national delegation will be taking a specially prepared vehicle to be paraded through Phnom Penh, down Russian Boulevard, all the way to the National Stadium here, the Olympic Stadium, where the ASEAN Para Games flag will then reside until the Para Games are held here next year in 2023. And I believe that once they arrive at the stadium as well, there will be further remarks delivered about the achievements that the athletes made in Indonesia
and they will be talking, I think, about specifically the 28 medals that were won, which games and which events that the athletes excelled in. I believe the 28 medals that were won across 7 different sports. And once then, after that is concluded, then it is the official start of Cambodia's turn to host the ASEAN Paragames, the 12th edition next year. And traditionally, it is so that whoever hosts the Southeast Asian Games, the SEA Games, is also the host of the ASEAN Paragames. So of course, Cambodia is also hosting the SEA Games, I believe sometime in May in 2023. And this is actually the first time in the kingdom's history that such an event is being hosted here, such a big regional sporting event of its kind. So it's a great moment of pride for the nation, and also very exciting for everyone here in Cambodia, as of course next year we expect to see a lot of people coming to the country as well to witness the games, to come here and take part in the games as well. Of course, the thousands of athletes who will arrive here alone, that will be a huge number of people. But there will also be many from other countries who come here to also just watch the games and see the different events. Of course, such games are like a big moment of national pride for everybody around the world. And this, of course, since it's regional, it's Southeast Asian, there will be people from different Southeast Asian countries coming, all holding great pride for their own countries. So all sporting events, of course, it's all about good sportsmanship and competition. But there is a very nice sense of camaraderie between athletes in sports, which I think is really great for relations also in the region. And our athletes that arrived today, there were actually 115 that were sent by Cambodia to Indonesia to partake in this year's Paragames. And initially, when asking experts from the Olympic Committee, they had made, now in retrospect, fairly conservative sort of predictions for how well our athletes would do, as I believe that they had predicted it was something like 3 gold medals. But following the conclusion of the games, we could now see that our athletes actually won 7 gold medals and 28 medals in total. That is beating their previous record of 9 medals at the 2013 edition of the ASEAN Paragames that was held in Myanmar. And that is beating it by 19 medals. So it is a huge, huge jump from before, and something that's to be very proud of. And of course, I think everyone is extremely proud of the arrived athletes from Indonesia. And everyone is very excited to also see the flag come here for the first time on Cambodian soil. And of course, it was Mr. Hun Mani, the official Cambodian national representative, who went to Indonesia to officially accept the flag over there. And of course, he was also the one who officially brought it onto Cambodian soil for the first time, as we saw earlier in the footage, as all the athletes first exited the plane, but some of them were also still on the plane, and they came out with the national representative, Mr. Hun Mani, who held the flag very proudly up in the air as it was billowing in the wind. Today's weather, of course, it briefly looked like it was going to rain, but it's been holding up really well so far. And they exited the plane down the stairs and onto a red carpet that was specially prepared for the athletes. And we had a special delegation there as well that was greeting the athletes, which included Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban, who is the Minister of National Defense, and other members of the Olympic Committee, and I believe also the Ministry of Tourism. Of course, sports and tourism do go hand in hand, and as Cambodia is hosting both the SEA Games and the ASEAN Paragames next year, we're expecting it to also do very well for the country's tourism. And focusing on sports has become something increasingly that they've put more importance on sports in recent years, as of course it is in build-up to Cambodia hosting these games. But I believe also it is a sign of the nation's development as well, as of course once the sort of infrastructural development, etc., to improve people's basic standards of living have gone up, it's then the country's ability to focus on other things like sports, and which of course help to increase the national status around the world and within the region. And it shows the potential of the country and in many different ways, of course. And I think this year our athletes really did well, and they really showed that they had incredible potential, especially right after COVID-19. COVID disrupted these games for a few years. They were actually canceled last year, the previous edition, which was supposed to be held in the Philippines. And also due to COVID this year, the games were split across 2 countries. So even if, as they are traditionally held in one country, both the original SEA Games and the ASEAN Para Games are normally held in one country, but this year the SEA Games were held in Vietnam and the Para Games were held in Indonesia. So COVID had really disrupted any large events of this kind, especially sporting events. So it's really amazing to see that our athletes just really excelled right after COVID-19, regardless of the delays and the pause on such events. They really kept their internal morale up. They were training like mad for the past 2 years, and it's all really paid off, as we can see, as they won 28 medals. So just seeing this incredible achievement alone is something to be very proud of in Cambodia. And I believe that everyone is very happy with the results. And of course, our athletes will be hard at work in the coming days. For them, unfortunately, as athletes, there's not much time to rest. The training regimens that athletes go through are very intense, and they're also non-stop. So our athletes work very hard to make such achievements and to get to the place that they are at. So it's really incredible to see their hard work pay off and to result in such an amazing feat. And we can now see there's footage of the road where there is a police procession. I believe that this is now the route that will be taken, the special parade that will be taken across the city. The athletes will be taken in a specially prepared vehicle down Russian Boulevard and across Phnom Penh to the Olympic Stadium, where the ASEAN Para Games flag will officially reside. And we can see here is the police escort in the front, and we can see in the back the special car coming with the arrived delegation and the athletes. We can see here there's one car with cameras and press, and we have one car with instruments, traditional instruments, playing music. It's a huge celebration, a big celebratory parade. And here we have the big main vehicle prepared for the athletes. It's adorned in all these wreath-like items. And here's the footage of the car itself. Oh, this is the car with the instruments. Here they're playing music, announcing the arrival of the athletes as they go through the city. So everyone who is on the road with them will know that this is the arriving delegation. It's supposed to be a huge parade, a big party and celebration for the arrival of these athletes. So this is also a way to show our sort of appreciation for their efforts and for their achievements, amazing achievements made. Of course, we must celebrate our athletes. They really did way better than anyone expected, exceeding all expectations. So of course, this must be a big celebration for them to be back to Cambodia, to bring such pride to their nation. It's just an incredible thing to see. So of course, this was our chance, Cambodia's chance, to show the athletes that they're appreciated and that they are being very well celebrated. And of course, this is all in the run-up to Cambodia's turn to host these games. So this, I think, ASEAN Para Games is extra special. And because of the team also doing so well, it really sweetens this whole situation, since Cambodia is now the next host of the games. So it's really kicking off this entire journey into hosting the games in such a great way. We're starting off at such a high point, and from here on it can only continue to go more up, like more forward in a very positive light. So it's just great to see the athletes come back, and it's great to see them being celebrated in this way.
And now they're just making their way down to down the Russian Boulevard, I believe, from Phnom Penh International Airport all the way to the Olympic Stadium. And the flag will be kept there. And once they arrive too, there will be a special delegation who will deliver further remarks celebrating their achievements in Indonesia in more detail. I think we will be able to maybe hear Deputy Prime Minister Thiaban deliver more remarks, and then more remarks being delivered by other members, perhaps from the national representative, Mr. Hunmani, and from a representative of the Ministry of Tourism and representatives from the Olympic Committee as a whole. And again, here is just the footage of the athletes in the car. You can see that the car has also been decorated. There's a sign in the front and on the sides, and of course there's a special police escort for the athletes, and we can see also the 3 Cambodian flags very proudly flowing in the wind over there. There's the car in the front, and then there is a big float-like vehicle in the back with even more athletes, and also where the ASEAN Paragames flag is also flowing in the wind. And now it will just continue in this manner until they arrive at the Olympic Stadium. This is the big parade for the athletes as they arrive back in Phnom Penh. There's music being played, I believe. You could see a previous car where musicians were in the back playing drums. So of course everyone who is there on the roads will be able to hear the arrival of the athletes and also see them coming. This is a very big moment for them to be welcomed back to the motherland in such a celebratory manner, of course, and to come back also after winning 28 medals, beating their previous record, and really exceeding all expectations, all predictions. I think for them it's just an amazing moment of pride, and of course a big moment of pride for everyone here in Cambodia as well. So it's really great to see them come back. You can see also on the side there's a huge crowd of people greeting the athletes with Cambodian flags. So we can now see the welcoming crowds on the sides wearing white and black. Everyone's very excited to see the athletes come back. You can hear them cheering. The mood is just fully celebratory. Everyone is very, very happy. So there's a lot of cheering going on. Okay, and just to recap also on this live stream, following the conclusion of the ASEAN Paragames in Indonesia, the Cambodian athletes and other national representatives returned with the ASEAN Paragames flag as Cambodia is set to host the 12th edition in 2023 of the ASEAN Paragames, the first time the kingdom is hosting this event. And the representative who received the flag in Indonesia, of course, our national representative was Mr. Hunmani, and he wrote on Facebook, "I'm very proud that today Cambodia has officially received the flag to host the 12th ASEAN Paragames 2023. Welcome to Cambodia." The ASEAN Paragames is a biennial multi-sport event held after every Southeast Asian Games involving athletes with disabilities from 11 Southeast Asian countries. Participating athletes have a variety of disabilities ranging from spasticity, cerebral palsy, mobility impairments, visual impairments, intellectual disabilities, and amputations. The ASEAN Paragames is under the regulation of the ASEAN Parasports Federation with supervision by the International Paralympic Committee and the Asian Paralympic Committee. It is traditionally hosted by the country where the Southeast Asian Games is taking place. In 2022, the ASEAN Para Games was held in Solo, Indonesia from 30th July to 6th August. Cambodia sent a total of 115 athletes to compete in 11 sporting categories, including swimming, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, seven-a-side football, table tennis, badminton, weightlifting, chess, and more. At the end of the competition, Cambodian athletes won a total of 28 medals, including 7 gold, 10 silver, and 11 bronze across 7 different sports. This is the most medals Cambodia has ever won at any ASEAN Para Games since it was first established in 2001. Cambodia broke its own 2013 record in Myanmar, where the country won a total of 9 medals, 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. With 28 medals, Cambodia is ranked 7th in the region, while Indonesia, this year's host, came first with 177 medals, Thailand came second with 117 medals, and Vietnam came third with 64 medals. And just now we saw the athletes arrive at the Phnom Penh International Airport in the special plane that was prepared by Prime Minister Hun Sen. There was a special red carpet that was prepared for the arrival of the athletes, including a special VIP delegation who was there to welcome them, which included Deputy Prime Minister Thia Ban, the Minister of National Defense, and representatives of the Cambodian Olympic Committee and from the Ministry of Tourism. So once the athletes all exited the plane, the VIP delegation arrived onto the carpet on the tarmac as well and greeted all the athletes with special wreaths. And the athletes could be seen wearing their medals. And once the athletes were greeted also, we saw the national representative, Mr. Hun Mani, who had gone to Indonesia for the closing ceremony of the ASEAN Para Games, where he officially received the ASEAN Para Games flag. And he returned with the delegation, and he came off the plane with the ASEAN Para Games flag, presenting it on Cambodian soil for the first time. And once the athletes all exited, they were then treated to just a short procession at the international airport where Deputy Prime Minister Thia Ban delivered his remarks. And soon after, they were taken out on a parade into the special cars that we can see right here on the road. A special parade across Phnom Penh from the airport to the National Olympic Stadium. Just see the procession. So there we just observed the procession moving down Phnom Penh. The vehicles carrying the athletes and the national delegation are now near the cabinet of the Prime Minister. So they're near that building now, and I believe they will just continue moving forward until they reach the stadium. So this is just the live coverage from EAC News on the arrival of the ASEAN Paragames athletes back from Indonesia. And they came also with their national delegation, which included the national representative, Mr. Hunmani, who had gone to Indonesia to officially receive the flag as Cambodia is the next host of the ASEAN Paragames. So he officially received the flag in Indonesia, and today is when the athletes arrived back along with the entire delegation, and also the first time that the ASEAN Paragames flag has arrived on Cambodian soil. And earlier we saw at the Phnom Penh International Airport the special plane prepared for the athletes land at the airport, and right on the tarmac we saw the athletes come out of the plane to great applause and celebrations, and there was a special red carpet prepared for the athletes where also a VIP